Hello everyone, welcome back. So as you see, we are discussing the question paper regarding economic reform. So we will be carrying on with question number 290 in this set of videos. So in 2019, the question that we have is which of the following categories of industries require compulsory industrial license in India? Electronic aerospace, petroleum other than crude and its distillation products, distillation of brewing of alcoholic drinks, cigars and cigarettes of tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. And we have to choose the correct codes, that is 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 3, and 4, or all of the above, which will be the correct answer. See, industrial licensing had been abolished for most of the industries except for certain industries which had strategic and environmental concerns. Okay, so the sectors where industrial explosives, including gunpowder, detonating fuses, safety fuses, cellulose, and matches. Also, electronic aerospace and defense equipment, cigars and cigarettes of tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes, specified hazardous chemicals such as hydrocyanic acid, phosphogen, phosgene, and its derivatives, and isocyanides, and those not specified elsewhere like methyl isocyanide and all. Okay. So accordingly, we have option number D as the correct answer. We will be marking option number D, that is all of the above. Next, moving on to question 220. The financial sector was subjected to some major reforms in the LPG policy of 1991. Which of the following were included in it? Financial sector was allowed to take decisions on many matters without consulting the RBI. Establishment of private sector banks, Indians as well as foreigners. Banks were allowed to generate resources from abroad with some restrictions. So the codes are given to us, that is 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, or all of the above, which will be the correct answer. So see, earlier all the banks and all other financial institutions were controlled through various norms and regulations of the RBI. The financial sector introduced were reduced role of RBI from regulator to facilitator of financial sector. The financial sector was allowed to take decisions on many matters without consulting the RBI. Establishment of private sector banks, that is, even foreign banks were allowed to set up in India. The banks were given freedom to set up new branches without the approval of RBI and rationalize their existing banking networks. Banks were given permissions to generate resources from India and abroad. Foreign institutional investors, which is the FII, were also allowed to invest in Indian financial markets. The FII were merchant bankers, mutual funds, and the pension funds. So accordingly, we have option number D as the correct, which is all of the above. Financial sector, establishment of private sector banks were allowed to generate resources from abroad. All of them are correct. So we mark option number D as the correct answer. Next, moving on to question 221. Consider the following statements with reference to developments post 1991 economic reforms. Income inequality has increased in India as compared to the status in 1991. Human Development Index, which is the HDI, ranking India has fallen continuously since 1991. Which of them are correct? Only one, two only, one and two, or neither one or two? Okay. Now coming to the discussion of this answer, see, over the last 2 decades, inequality has doubled in India, okay, making it the worst performer among all emerging economies. So the top 10 of wage earners now earn 12 times more than the bottom 10%. So it has increased from 6 times in the 1990s. So definitely 1 is correct. Now coming to statement 2. The second statement, India continued to rank low in the 5 notices and then fell one notch to the 131st rank of the latest UNDP HDR report. That is for the 2016 data is of 2015 on account of rise in life expectancy as per capita income. So India's 2015 HDI of 0.624 is below the average of 0.630 for countries in the medium human development group. So again, option number 2 is incorrect. So even if you don't want or don't know the trends after 1991, it could be answered with the help of recently available information. So based on this, we have only option number A to be the correct answer. That is only 1 is correct. Okay. So we will mark option A, that's only 1 is correct. Moving on to question 222. Many economic roles which were under complete government monopolies were now open for participation by the private sector. This change in an economy can be called privatization, deregulation, de-reservation, or de-licensing. Okay, so this is a very easy question that's asked. We only have to go through the definition though. See, once the country started the process of economic reforms in the early 1990s, the role of state was redefined and the role of the private sector was increased, which moved the country into a new era of a mixed economy, which now favored market economy. Okay. So many economic roles which were under complete government monopolies were now opened for participation by the private sector. These changes came to be known as de-reservation. You can take example as telecommunications, power, or roads, oil and natural gas, etc. Okay. So going by this, the correct answer is option number C, that is de-reservation. Moving on to question 223. Factor market reforms, which is the FMR, are considered to be an important component of second generation economic reforms in India. FMR may include number 1, cutting down level of subsidies. Number 2, dismantling the administered price mechanism. And option 3, rationalization or rationalizing the taxation system. We have the correct codes as 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, or all of the above, which will be the correct answer. See, the economic reforms of 1991 concentrated primarily on the product markets, giving little attention to the factor market reforms. So the factor markets include land, labor, energy, capital, and access to credit. Okay. So as these inputs are unified, or as these inputs are critical factors of production, they need to be unified policy across the nation for these. So FMR is considered as the backbone of the success of the reform process of India in India itself. So this reform consisted of firstly dismantling of the administered price mechanism, which is the APM, were many products in the economy whose prices were fixed or deregulated by the government. APM hindered the profitability of the manufacturers and the sellers. It also came to the cutting down of the subsidies on the essential goods, but it is a socio-political question in India. Till market-based purchasing power is not developed to all the consumers, it would not be possible to complete the FMRs. Okay, so based on this, our answer 1 and 2 is the correct one. Okay, so option number A is the true option to question number 223. Next, moving to question 224. What do you understand by liberalization in the context of Indian economy? Nationalization of public financial institutions, a citizen-centric economic structure that maximizes welfare, relaxing unnecessary government control from the market and economic institutions, increasing the money supply in the economy. So, which one will be the correct answer? So, see, economic liberalization is relaxing unnecessary government regulations and restrictions in an economy for greater private participation, for promoting economic development, where private participation will be enhanced. The primary goal of economic liberalization are improving ease of doing business, the free flow of capital, and the efficient allocation of resources and competitive advantages. So India started liberalization significantly since 1991. The 1991 reforms, let's take an example, easing the FDI gaps, promoting ease of doing business, reducing bureaucracy where it's not needed, etc. So going by this, option number C will be the correct answer, that is relaxing unnecessary government control from the market and economic institutions. Moving to question 225. In the context of economic reform, privatization may mean facilitating expansion of the private sector by the state, disinvestment in the state-owned enterprises, increasing economic integration with other state economies. We have to choose the correct codes, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, or all of the above. Which one will be the correct option? The privatization, firstly, statement 3 refers to globalization. Privatization means denationalization, that is complete transfer of the state ownership to the private sector. This investment process includes selling of the shares of the state-owned enterprises. That is 51% of the total will go to the next portion, that is to the private ones. Private enterprise or the private sector, that is 50% or more. Well, less than 100% ownership transfers from the state to the private sector. Okay. So the third and the last sense in which the term privatization had been or has been around the world is verified. The term privatization has been used for all policies, which directly or indirectly seems to promote the expansion of the private sector or the market in the economy. We may cite a few examples from India. Let's take the example of de-licensing and deregulation or deregulation of the industries, even cuts in subsidies, permission to foreign investment, etc. So going by this, option number A is the correct answer. That is 1 and 2 only. Okay. Next, moving on to question 226. Globalization is the process of hegemonic domination of global affairs by a select group of industries, making democracy a prerequisite for the existence of a state, allowing free movement of economic elements among different societies, convergence of different tectonic plate boundaries. Okay, so we are talking of globalization. Okay, and globalization, the technical definition, it's the process of allowing free movement of economic elements beyond the domestic and national markets to other markets around the globe. Globalization increases the interconnection of the world by increasing international trade and cultural exchange. So with this definition of globalization, we will mark option number C as the correct answer, that is allowing free movement of economic elements among different societies. Next, coming to question number 227. Which of the following would strengthen the forces of globalization? And we have the options here. Increase in specialization of labor across borders, liberalization of external accounts such as capital account convertibility, and we have the codes here, one only, 2, both 1 and 2, neither 1 and 2. Okay. So, coming by the answer to this, see, globalization is, we'll discuss statement wise. Let's come to statement 1 first. Globalization is an inevitable result of specialization of labor across borders. For example, developed countries produce capital goods, while developing countries produce primary goods, as the latter possesses abundant primary resources. So if this proceeds, it integrates the markets of all such complementary economies. So statement 2. Statement 2. Full capital account convertibility would allow one to convert capital in any currency to and from any currency from both short-term and long-term investments such as the FDI, FII, etc. Low capital account convertibility is a blockage in integral global economies. So going by this, our option number C, that is both 1 and 2, will be the correct option. Okay. Next, moving on to question number 228, which is from the new economic policy. Okay. So this question from new economic policy states, the new economic policy, which is the NEP of 1991, was an outcome of East Asian financial crisis, stagnation in Indian economy for over a decade, withdrawal of large chunks of liquidity by the Reserve Bank of India, balance of payment or BOP crisis. Okay. See, a BOP crisis is a situation when the foreign exchange that a nation has is not enough to finance the external account deficit. Therefore, a balance of payment crisis was looming to avert which India resorted to the help of the World Bank and IMF. So these situations or these institutions provided help with conditions. In the light of these conditions, new economic policy or NEP of 1991 was announced. So D is correct. Other objectives of this policy were to tackle high inflation, mismanagement of the economy, revive growth process, etc. However, the most appropriate reason was to avert a balance of payment crisis. Asian financial crisis happened in 1997, from which India was largely insulated. So going by this, we have option number D to be the proper answer for question number 228, that is balance of payment crisis. So in this video, we have discussed up till question number 228. I will advise you all to refer to the previous videos for more questions that were already discussed. So in the next videos, we'll come up from the next set of questions, that is from question 229. I hope you have clearly understood and heard me out, and I expect that you don't have any doubt. So please go through the videos. All the answers are clearly explained with the proper options marked. So all the best for your examination, and do follow the next videos for the next set of questions. Thank you. Stay happy, stay safe. Thank you.